Hey guys, Tate and Zayner here from Bonsai Apprentice. Welcome to the first actual video. If you haven't seen my GoFundMe video, please go and watch it, like, subscribe, share that, and please donate. Like I said, long term, I want to get to Japan, but I figured while I'm here, let's make some videos and share what I have with you guys. So there'll be a tag somewhere, link to that video. Please watch it, please share it, like I said, and help me out. Today though, I want to share my deciduous trees with you, and I figured what better time to do that than today. Now, a lot of my trees are young. Like I said in my GoFundMe video, 2.5 years old. Most of my trees, some were store-bought, some were collected out of a garden, and a lot of them are mostly seedlings. So as I share, I'll talk a little bit about those, my plans for my trees long term, and just share and enlighten what's going on with them. So if you like this and you want to see more and you want to support me, please like, share, subscribe, all that good jazz. And with that said, let's get down to it. All right, so to start with, we're gonna look at my 2 elms. Now these elms came out of a neighbor's garden, actually. They had an elm tree, it had seeds, they grew, and each of these really have a unique story. So the first one I want to talk about is this one. So as you can see, it doesn't have a ton of foliage. It's got some towards the top, and it's pretty decently ramified for being a 2-year seedling that I dug out of a garden. And same thing with this lower branch. And then this year I got all these other branches coming out towards the end of spring. So I'm just letting them elongate, and then they'll fill in this negative space where there's really not any. So as I bring that across, this one will go a little bit further back. And this tree has an interesting, you can see the wire, but as we get to the bottom, you can see some major cuts. And what actually happened to this tree was it took a weed whacker before I got it. Now, this tree is healthy, it's growing profusely, it had a ton of new flush, but you can just see the marks going against where the weed whacker just took at it. So unfortunately, this tree probably will never be a show tree because of that. The bark on it is it's just been mutilated, and it will just take years for it to grow out. I mean, even down here, it's got a huge gash. You can see where it's scarred over from getting hit. So unfortunately, this tree, I'm gonna switch it back to the front. This tree here will probably never be a show tree because of that damage, but it's a good tree. I rather enjoy it, and like I said, it's really filling out. It's looking good. The top is very heavy still, but as I get more branches down low and back budding on the bark, obviously I will end up cutting that back and condensing that canopy and keeping it very small up here as these elongate. But for now, I need those to grow, lignify, and gain vigor before I start removing branches off the tree. Now this is another elm that I got out of the same garden. You can see it's got a nice zigzag pattern to it, and eventually each of these leaves will pair out and it'll start to really ramify out. A little bit of wire to train some of these other branches that are already coming out, but for the most part it is a decent tree until you see that scarring right here. And there we go, it focused. What had happened is originally this was a twin trunk tree, so I had another trunk coming up and out this way, and it fell, and the entire bark and tree was just stripped off. And I had to repot it immediately, and I tried to clean up that wound as best as possible, and you can see it growing and healing back. But what's most exciting are these buds back here. So theoretically, what I can do is, if I can get this growing out and healthy, I can just cut this part off, have a very minimal scar, as these grow, the trunk will thicken up more, and I'll be able to eventually get rid of this ugly mess, or at least be able to hide it if I'm never able to cut it off at, you know, this height and keep these new buds coming out. And I think that would be the best option for this tree. It's got a decent base to it. You can see it's thick and then comes up, tapers up, you know, pretty reasonably nice. I wish it was a little bit more flat, but as it grows, as it matures in age, I should say, we will see a healthier root base, and we will see a vigorous top. And I'm hoping long term that this tree at least can, you know, become a show tree and be healthy and ready to go. And this one the same way. I'm hoping that this wire the wire won't ever, I'm watching it, won't cut in, but the weed whacker marks hopefully will go away with time, or I'll be able to maybe air layer it off here and keep it going. It may or may not, who knows, but like I said, I would hope to keep these trees. They're in decent pots. I mean, this one fits the pot a little bit better. It's still a little big, but as it goes out, it will be better. And this one, I mean, the height's good. The trunk's very thin though, but I think aesthetically the pots are pretty decent for these trees, and I hope that they continue to grow. All right, on to the next one. All right, so next we have my American red maples. Now, these were all from seedlings, this forest and this clump style, which I will talk about. And they were all grown from seedling from my neighbor's tree. And as you can see, pretty dense. They were grown, they were shown, the front's somewhere around there. So it looks pretty good, but what happened, if you can see, we got some burn in here, especially on this front one, we got leaf burn. And what happened was, we got, in April, a day that got close up to 80, almost 90 degrees. And I wasn't home in time, and it scorched these leaves. Now, some of them so I had to go through and cut and take off all of those leaves that were scorched. And as you can see, some are coming out in full vigor again, while others are struggling in certain parts of the tree. So I'm optimistic that this will stay a pretty healthy long run, but I also understand that some of these trees have taken a lot of damage, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully I can keep these healthy and going, because I think it looks pretty decent for being a 2-year-old forest. I think it looks pretty healthy. I think eventually it can fit into a show or something like that. It's pretty organic in my opinion, and you know, after a couple years, when I can get some smaller leaves and ramification on it, that we will be in really good shape. Right now we don't have much in the way of any lateral branching. It's basically all off the trunk or splits in the trunk. So something to look forward to is that lateral branching, and hopefully I can get that in a couple years. Like I said, only 2 years old, so these have a long way to go. Now, this one is a split trunk tree. Originally it was 4. One of them died, so now I'm down to a 3, but you can see some beautiful leaves on it, beautiful red colors, just healthy as can be, happy in this pot. Now this pot, obviously not what you would typically put it in, but I didn't have anything else to put it in, and so it's just in here. And it's tied underneath the soil, it's clumped together, it's growing exponentially well. All 3 of the other trees in here are very healthy. No leaf burn or anything like that. And as I rotate it, you can see around. Now, there's not a front for this tree. I haven't decided on a front, and I probably won't till these start to really fuse together and I can manipulate those branches and bend them. without being afraid of it breaking. And usually that takes 1 to 2 years from all the things I've read and seen. And so it's something to think about long term. And I'm not too worried about what I have to do with this one now. I just want it to grow, fuse together at that base, so I can expose the Mulberry and have a nice set of trees. So like I said, this forest, this one, 2 years old. And, well, this one just was put together this year, but they're all 1 year seedlings. And this is all just 1 year seedlings. This year, though, 2 years. And they just, I mean, I think both look really good for being that young. So, again, on to the next one. All right, so here are my second to last set of trees. So, on this side, I have a mulberry tree. Now, this tree also collected from a neighbor's garden, and I have selected that this is the front, actually, of this tree. It has a nice trunk line. It comes up. I'm going for a multi-trunk tree, and the reason I chose a multi-trunk tree is because that's what mulberries tend to do. Now, this tree has had a pretty, I wouldn't say rough season to start, but it's not been a good one. It has some burn, as you can see. Same thing as the other ones. It didn't pop as much as I wanted it to. A lot of the buds ended up just dying or not coming out, and it was kind of sad. I'm not really sure what happened. I just think that maybe it wasn't strong enough, or it didn't get a good enough winter. We did have a warm winter in Missouri, so maybe that is part of it, but it's still alive. It had some new growth. It's fairly healthy, and we can hope, looking forward, that this tree continues to flourish and blossom and buds out hopefully next year. I mean, we've got small baby buds here and there back budding, but nothing like I was expecting it to. You can see a lot of the dead buds in different places. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if it just didn't get cold enough for this tree this winter, or if it's just struggling in the bonsai soil that it's in. I'm not really sure, but I'm just keeping an eye on it, hoping it's healthy, and seeing what it's doing. So this one is one of my favorites. It's an odd tree for bonsai. It is a black lotus tree, is what it's called here. It's an invasive species in Missouri. It grows extremely well, but it has, reasonable sized leaves. They're about the size of a knuckle, and I don't actually know if they will get any smaller. The leaves across the tree are all about the same size. Even from the bottom are slightly bigger coming off, but it's really cool because they fold up when it gets super hot out to protect the foliage, so it doesn't actually get sunburned. I don't think there's a single one on here that is sunburned. And this is a brand new tree. I dug it out last fall, out of the ground when we were doing end of season cleanup in our garden, and I'm not really sure how it reacts to cutting. I'm not sure where it will bud. I have yet to see it bud from certain spots and grow out. And so I'm kind of just waiting to see where it comes from before I do anything, and the nature of this tree before I do anything. As you can see, it's vigorous. It looks like it alternates as well on the stem, but like I said, I don't know if it will come from inside here on these leaves where the buds are, or if it's going to come from there. Now I would assume here, but like I said, I'm waiting to see how this tree reacts to growing buds, and in the fall when I can see the buds coming out. But it's an interesting tree. I think as this trunk thickens, as it gets bigger, obviously this is really tall and lanky, and it's already falling over. And what I would probably end up doing is cutting it here, making another apex, and figuring out what it's gonna do. But in the meantime, I think for right now, this tree is growing healthy, and it's an interesting one. I don't think a lot of people have a bonsai tree like this. And as I say, I'm just playing with it. I don't know what it'll do. I don't know if the future, if it'll be a good show tree, if the leaves will get smaller and more ramified. Honestly, I just don't know. So, like I said, it's in a blue pot. And this one's in a nice, round glazed pot. But we will just have to wait and see on both of these trees. And time for the last trees. And they're none other than apple trees. Get excited. I love a good apple tree. I think these will be pretty as they grow. They came out literally this spring, so they are only, 3-4 months old, and we already have a lot of good stuff. Obviously some burn. I think they might have a little disease. It's common in the Midwest to have your flowering and apple fruiting trees of any sort really get some of this, I don't know, rust or bite to them. And unfortunately, I think these trees are so young, and that if I treated it with a pesticide and cut off those branches, that we would actually cause more harm and they might not recover. So I am this year just leaving it. It hasn't affected any other tree, and I can't imagine that it will later in the season if it hasn't already. I think these long-term will be really cool. They're already getting some interesting movement to them without any give. It's just how they're growing. So they're growing up. They're looking good. They're having new leaves all over. You can see here. You can see the new leaves coming out right on the inside right there. There we go. Yeah. So as they grow, I think they'll just look gorgeous. And I think over the course of the year and years to come, they will ramify. They will, apple trees get gnarly. They get that dieback. The tree continues to grow around that dieback. They rot. Obviously, that's years and years down the road, but for now, I think we're looking at some really good starting apple trees. I think you could make your, classic apple schoolhouse drawing in a couple years out of these trees, and it look absolutely stunning with, whatever apples come out of these. Because they were from apple seeds, you could get a new variety, you could get a different variety, you could get brand new colors that you've never seen. So we will see what happens with these, but these are my new projects. Like I said, grew them from seed, put them in here. I got another tray just like this, but I figured one is enough. They have the same amount, they look basically the same, and I would just say that they're my new play seedlings for the year. Hey guys, so thank you for watching through this video. I know it was a decently long one with a lot of cuts. I'm not the best at it. I'm getting better though. I'm practicing, and I hope you enjoyed my deciduous trees. I'm gonna make a video that's about my conifers coming up, and I'm also gonna make a video about trees that I haven't done work on, and what my plans are for those trees as well. And I think, if you like to see anything else, want me to talk about anything else, anything that I'm missing, please leave a like or in a comment below. I'll try to answer it either in a video or directly in the comments. If you haven't checked out my GoFundMe, please do. Please like, share, and subscribe to this video. And I feel like I need an actual intro and outro, like a saying. I think my outro for this series, for my Bonsai Apprentice, is gonna be sayonara, because A, I like the word, and B, I think I can pull it off pretty well. And if I'm gonna be in Japan, hopefully, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just say sayonara.